is heading around the hairpin. It's going to pull in. The cars should be in 2x2 formation as they come out of the corner. The red lights, you can see, are on the gantry. And do they go out? Yes, they do. And the race gets underway. And just stealing a slight march there at the start is the Seat, which is being started as we set up. But down to the first corner, we've had the Elise has been swallowed up. It's gone down to 4th position, Josh.
Yeah, it hasn't got the power, has it? Although Alan Henderson was sort of hanging back. I don't really think it was Cole Swift getting away. Alan Henderson was really not alongside him. So Swift has gone then at the start of the race. He's really pulled away from the 2nd place car, which is Joe Locke, who went well at Donington Park last time. But he's coming under pressure from Andy Marston down into Tower Corner. The start of the race is still going on for the Class C cars. They're in Declarvo. The mid-back cars are coming out to came into Tower Bend. There was a change for a second. Andy Marston got ahead of Joe Locke. Steve Cheatham's come up to 4th. It is very busy down into Tower. And down to 5th position has gone... behind Steve Cheatham has gone Alan Henderson, so a really poor start from the Lotus Elise driver. I guess a full tank of fuel for a Lotus, in percentage-wise, gives it more weight than some of the heavier cars. Yeah, absolutely. Might affect the performance more, so if that comes on stronger later in the race. Change for Class B lead. Luke Handley, now from 3rd on the grid, I think, has got into the lead. Following him, Mark Rice down to 3rd. Has gone the poleman Peter Mansfield, who I guess isn't quite as quick as Rob Boston, who qualified the car. Round Sunny, they go for the first time. Lead is actually already arriving at the complex, and it is the Carl Swift Seat in the lead of the race. There you can see the Holden Commodore going through. Matty Taylor at the wheel of that car, but here is Carl Swift at the end of lap 1, already quite a commanding lead over number 37 Andy Marston in 2nd place. In 3rd place then is the number 86 car of Joe Locke, and then it's Steve Cheatham in 4th, and for the pit lane, I'm afraid, is the Lotus of Alan Henderson. Oh dear, we said it needs to be reliable. I wasn't expecting it not to last a lap. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And another Lotus in trouble is the Leon Bidgeway car that went well in road sports yesterday. He's being swallowed up down the straight by other cars, both within his class and probably in other classes as well. So perhaps that explains the first lap speed for Alan Henderson. So he looks to be out of it. So I think the favourites for this race are the leaders now, Cole Swift and Rob Baker. And off he's gone to Gulf. That's into Hawthorne. That's car number 12. Tom Rogers driving that car at the moment. We saw him in a Clio in the past. So he's got back on the road though. How many cars did we get to the end of lap 1? That would have been 47. So we lost 3 before the start by the looks of it, but a huge grid. I think the biggest grid that Croft Circuit has seen, particularly for this type of race car. Big cars around this circuit. It's a very quick circuit, it'll be exciting to watch. So Cole Swift, the Class A leader. Class B leader is Luke Handley. And the Class C leader after 1 lap, I think, is the Lundy Salika. Yeah, and that started on pole position within that class as well. So there is the 19 car going through. Peter Mansfield starting that car then. So we know that the quicker driver of that pairing will be Rob Boston. He'll get in the car for the second part of the race. Watching the cars streaming through. You've got Darren Ball there in that 1 Series. He's driving on this occasion. There's Steve Cheatham going through, the champion of a couple of years ago. He's ahead of the number 69 car, Matthew Hampson, who'll hand over to the quicker Andy Schultz for the second part of the race. There's Hampson now, and he's just got Sammy Venables alongside him, and Sammy Venables up the inside. It's his first ever race, but wow, what a start he's having up the inside there to take 5th place away. On the first lap of the race, Cole Swift has broken the lap record by a whole second. 1 minute 29.66 is over a second under Micah Brown's lap record. Sammy Venables there though, doing very well. That is sort of 3rd or 4th day in the car, I think, from chatting to him earlier on in that Elite Works prepared car. And that Civic is going well. That's a strong start to the race for that car as well. Simon Morgan at the wheel of that one. It started 13th, but there's a sad sight. The Alan Henderson Lotus being pushed into the garage. Yes, that was 6th, was it, for Morgan. That's a great start from 13th on the grid, as you say, so getting ahead of Matthew Hampson again. So I want to have a quicker drive in for the second half in the hands of Andy Schultz. Hampton's losing more positions here. Stepping aside almost for a couple more. That was William Caswell in the Seat and Neil Primrose in the Janetta. Getting ahead of him, and behind a problem for the 53 car, and that's the other Elite Works prepared car, I'm afraid. That's Charlie Dark in the Polo.
that's come a cropper, and off into the barriers has gone the Porsche. That's the McEwen Porsche, isn't it? Number 74, Ross McEwen it was that started that car, so that looks like it's quite a heavy off, and the red lights are on, the race being stopped.
I did see a driver, a brown, so hopefully that was he. But yes, red flags are out because there looked like significant damage to the circuit furniture here at Croft, unfortunately. Second time I think we've had a red flag in one of these races. That was at Oulton Park last year, the other one.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had it on a couple of occasions before, and it does throw things into a little bit of confusion.
Not least for the officials.
No, absolutely. Well, at least it was very early in the race before we've had to start to worry about pit stops.
And important for the driver is out of the car. Which one of the McEwens was it? It was Ross and McEwen.
Yeah.
I think there's more damage done to the circuit. I think down at Sunny by the looks of things. The 750 Motor Club race rescue crew are already down there, and the second rescue crew will head in that direction too. But good to see him out of the car. I presume he's the only car down there.
Yeah, well, that is the question, because we've got the medical car heading out as well. Maybe whether anyone else has been involved in that remains to be seen. So 5 minutes had gone when the red flags sadly have gone out. The cars have been stopped on the circuit in front of us, and they'll need to be re-gridded, of course. And it would be a new grid as well, because we'd had 2 laps, so that's an extra inconvenience. There's a bit of, I don't know, is that a part of a car? It looks like maybe a splitter. Something from the underside of one of the cars there.
So it might have started at Barcroft by the looks of it. So I think that's where our camera is located. Let somebody run a bit wide, and
this is all part of the car that we've seen off, we understand. So. That's why we're seeing it, and that to show you that the car must have presumably then gone off onto the grass on the left-hand side of the circuit. And you were saying the grass is wet still.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yes, that's not good, is it?
No.
There's a lot of damage to the circuit. The good news was driver was out. This is what I was talking about earlier, Ian. The grass is very wet off the circuit. It may be a nice day, but there's been a lot of rain here, and when you're on the grass, you've got no chance of stopping. And I suspect this might be quite a lengthy red flag, which means we'll be running probably to the 6 o'clock curfew rather than. New duration of the race, apparently, is 110 minutes.
Okay.
And pit stop window will open after 25 minutes of the race getting underway. So it's a 110-minute race.
Okay. So we are 13, and we're going to need to reset our countdown clock for, aren't we? On that one. So 110 minutes. Anyway, the safety car is in.
Absolutely right, and he's pulling away then as they come out of the chicane for the first time, being chased by Andy Marston, or Andy Marston's following him. I'm not sure if you could say he's chasing him as such. In 3rd place is Joe Locke, 4th is Steve Cheetham. In 5th place, a change, I think. Yeah, Matthew Hampson, he's losing those positions. He was losing just prior to the red flag. He's already down to 8th position. So Sammy Venables is back through into P5. Here is the Class C leaders on our screens. Darren Kell chasing after the Toyota driver, Rowan Lundy. There's a good shot of the cars heading through. Here's Neil Primrose in the Ginetta trying to get the better of Matthew Hampson. So coming through the scene of the red flag corner. This is an instant, of course, down into Sunny. Here's Mark Grice, 2nd in Class B, hopping over the curbs, trying to get past one of the more powerful Class A machines. The red lights are still on the gantry, which is not ideal, really, if we are racing.
Yeah, leader is coming through to complete the first lap of this second part of the race. Carl Swift it is that leads then. 2nd, number 37, Andy Marston. 3rd is the number 86 car, which is that of Joe Locke. And yes, we have gone back. So that was the first lap counting on the timer screen. So we have gone back to 110 minutes from that start, by the looks of it. Okay, and thanks to Alpha Live, I've got the our clock in pretty much the right position as the race well and truly underway. 2.5 seconds. Cole Swift is ahead of Andy Marston with Joe Locke
continuing to run third, not far behind him.
Oh, and the problem there, that's the number 80 car that's then been collected by the
Alex
number
Miller,
71 MX5.
Alex Miller.
It was a spin for number 80 there. You can see that on your screens now, and it was the Alex Miller MX5. We're not sure who started that car, actually, whether it's Miller or Language. But
Miller started at Donington and he's the car owner, so that would make sense. 80, the other car involved, is Andrew Etheridge in his BMW E46 M3.
Yeah, there's the second and third place car, and that's Joe Lock at the moment. But that car is crabbing its way towards the pit lane exit. Hopefully it can pull in there.
Yeah, and the Etheridge car has got off the road pretty well, so I think that should be okay. Cole Swift is about to complete the lap, but for second it's close. With three of them now, because Steve Cheetham, having won the best race in the Class A spec boxers, going after the two M3s here of Andy Marston and Joe Lock. They turn into this yellow flag zone at the hairpin now, of course. A bit of debris on the exit. This could be important to miss the debris, because of course you can easily get a puncture here. So drive, there's nowhere you can really go because it's right across the road, isn't it? The debris there. So the officials will be having a look at that, whether they think that's okay for now. But yellow flags, of course, there. And green flags for the cars they turn into Clairvaux, with Andy Marston still in second, but now 4.8 seconds behind the leader.
Steve Cheetham going well. He's staying with these two BMWs, isn't he? In fourth position in the Porsche there. Here with the two BMWs coming out of the chicane. 37 Marston and 86 Joe Lock, on their way down the straight towards Tower Corner. Cheetham just in the background there. Lock almost looking as if he was going to make a move into Tower Corner that time. Still Sammy Venables as well in the fifth position, number 235 car, the Elite Works car, and then Simon Morgan sixth in the number 18 Honda.
In Class B, Luke Handley still lead, but for second, almost side by side into Jim Clarkett. It's not quite, but Lock is looking quite racy here. Of course, that car did qualify in front of Marston. It was Marston making a good start to get second. He's still there for now, though. Class B, I was about to update you on that. It's Luke Handley first, second is Mark Rice, and third is Christopher Freeman. In Class C, it's still Rowan Lundy ahead of Darren Kell, and third is Alex Livesey.
There's a look at the different classes and the positions within those. So Carl Swift leading in Class A from Andy Martin and Joe Lock. Luke Handley from Phil Dryborough and Will Beach and Mark Rice in Class B. And the Lundys, Rowan Lundy from the Kells. And, well, it was the Miller and Langridge car, but that's now out of the race. That'll be Rory Baptiste, number 98, that moves into third position.
Alan Henderson is on track in the Lotus Elise. He's, I think, about a lap behind, but he is going. So, see what kind of progress he can make. As Steve Cheetham goes round the outside of Joe Lock into Clairvaux Corner, and he gets it done. So the Porsche is up to third place now. So Steve Cheetham's having a great run here to get into third in the rear-engined Porsche. A good track for rear-engine cars, because of course the traction out the hairpin is vital, and was all the weight over the rear of the car. So he's gone into third place ahead of Joe Lock, and now he's chasing after Andy Marston. And he's looking racy here. I think the Porsche will get second before too long.
Yeah, certainly could do. Confirmation with the bulletin coming through. It is 110 minutes. Pit stops after 25 minutes. So we've had 5 minutes of the race so far. But yep, Steve Cheetham making a very good start to that race. This race in the Lodge Sports Porsche, chasing after number 37 Andy Marston, but the leader Carl Swift getting away to the tune of nearly 7 seconds after the first 3 laps of the race. But Cheetham there and Marston almost overlapping as they came out of Sunny Corner that time, heading back towards the complex on lap number 4. Can Cheetham make a move here? Well, he's not able to into the left-hander. And look, Sammy Venables, he's not too far behind either in that 235 either. So it's 4 cars now in a train for second place.
He's really bringing a couple more with him, isn't he? Simon Morgan Civic and Will Caswell's Sayat. So I think we might get more cars into this yet. So Andy Marston will not be passed. So he's still in second place as they complete 4 laps now of this race. In the next lap or so, we're going to be into Class C traffic as well, which will add another element into it. This battle was 8 seconds behind the leader, though, Cole Swift, who's getting away. And they turn their way then into Hawthorne Corner. There is Sammy Venables, the novice driver in this M2, the M235i BMW. He's chasing then perhaps a slightly older M3 of Joe Lock as they head down towards Tower Corner.
Holden Commodore, number 7, Matty Taylor's into the pit lane, I'm afraid, after about 6 minutes of this race. So that's a disappointment for them. And these are the 2 cars that are going with Sammy Venable's really, Simon Morga, and the Caswell Seat as well, the 126 car.
That's right. Cheetham quick through the S's here, getting right onto the rear wing of Andy Marston as we turn our way then through the right-hander at Barcroft, down towards Sunny. Where can Cheetham find a way through? He's up over the curbs on the inside of the corner. He's looking really good here. This is the best I'd suggest this car has gone in Class A spec here.
Yeah, absolutely right. Really promising start to the race, chasing after Andy Marston there, only just a couple of seconds behind him. And look, Sammy Venable's trying to make a move there on Joe Locke there, and look, he's right behind him now, but up on the inside is going to go Simon Morga in the Honda Civic, and he's done it. So Sammy Venable was having looked like he was going to take a place away from Joe Locke, who's now lost a place. He might lose two here, because around the outside of the hairpin goes Will Caswell in the Seat Leon.
Heading for the pit lane with problems is Joe Locke, so this is before the pit window's opened, isn't it? So Joe Locke, something not right with the M3 GTR, so the Tim Gray Motorsport team will look into that. But here's Venables, who's still ahead of William Caswell, so he stayed in front. There's the Holden we said that pitted earlier. It's Cole Swift that leads the motor race by 10 seconds now. In second place is Andy Marston, in third is Steve Cheetham, fourth is Simon Morga in that Civic that started 13th, fifth is Sammy Venables, and sixth is William Caswell as they make their way out of the chicane. Venables now under pressure from Caswell, so as he looked like he was going to move forward, he might well lose the place. But here comes Steve Cheetham, who's super late on the brakes on the inside of Andy Marston. That was a hugely bold effort. It's not quite going to pay off for him though.
Excellent effort from him. Just looking a bit further back, it's still the Lundys. Rowan Lundy leading Class C in the Toyota Celica at the moment. We'll pick up Class B in a minute, but here we go then. This fight for second place on the road between number 37 Andy Marston and number 43 Steve Cheetham. They're going at it like it's a 15-minute sprint race, not a 110-minute Club Enduro race that restarted around about 20 past 4, so we're going to go through until 10 past 6 this evening, and they are being well challenged actually by Simon Morgan, who's not too far behind. Looked like Cheetham was going to get alongside into the complex that time, but decided better of it. So Morgan now in the Civic up to 4th, and then you've got the 235i of Venables in 5th, the J Delgado run car, and then in 6th place you've got that second of the Seats, the Caswell and Kayla machine, with a gap back then of about 4 seconds to Colin Gillespie in 7th. Simon
Morgan had to go into the hairpin, but on the exit of the corner, Cheetham's just about holding on. He's got the inside line. Not sure who's got more power here, though, as they turn into Clairvaux. It's pretty equal, but Cheetham on the inside should be able to hang on here, which he does. Hops over the curves, but then that allows Morgan to challenge into Hawthorne. They'll be into traffic this lap as well. The leader's already started with that. Now, we know Cheetham is very good on the brakes into Tower Corner. Is he going to have another go? Well, he looks too far back to me, coming out of the chicane behind Andy Marston, behind William Caswell's having another go at Sammy Venable for 5th position. There's the traffic we mentioned, and side by side Caswell's got 5th from Sammy Venable. Round the outside, of course, Caswell a much more experienced driver here. Yeah, absolutely right, and that may be telling there as we move on to lap 7 of this race. There's the Tim Gray Motorsport team, and it's I think it's Tim himself with his head underneath the left rear wheel arch of that car, so some kind of issue with the suspension maybe, or the wheel. The wheel is off, of course. There's a bit of something leaking as well.
Yeah, possibly some fluid coming out of the car there.
And Cheetham's got into second here, hasn't he? He's got ahead of Andy Marston then, but as they started the traffic, he's got through, and we'll see what kind of pace he can now do. Well, he's got that big Holden to pass first, which might be a bit harder than some of the Class C cars. I think he'll do it on the inside here, but now we shall see what kind of pace Steve Cheetham has. Well, not so much in clear air because it's in traffic, but whether he can pull away from Andy Marston. Yeah, and also the Civic trying to get past the slower Holden Commodore as well, that's already been for the pits once during the course of this race. Class B, by the way, is still being led by number 51 Luke Handley from Phil Dryborough in second, Chris Freeman in third. So actually the Grice Golf has dropped back a little bit over the last lap or two. That was in second place. Yeah, he's down to 4th. Slow last lap actually, so that might have been when it happened. Simon Morgan's going to be stuck behind John Munro through the chicane, which could give William Caswell a run off the corner. Yeah, the Seat's quicker here. He's got more momentum, but can he find a way through in towards Tower Corner? He gained a place here earlier on the outside line. He's going to try again. Big racing brakes on the Seat, of course. Oh, but he didn't have enough brakes, it would seem, and he's run out onto the grass. Yeah, and that will cost him time, and it might give Sammy Venables, who's got a bit more momentum coming out of Tower Corner, the chance to get back on term. Sammy Venables has lost a bit of time, I thought, there. Yeah, now into the lap traffic, he's struggling a touch. And this is where his perhaps inexperience will pay off a little, or will
not pay off a little bit, if you see what I mean. He's done lots of karting. I'm not sure how many times he's had to deal with lap traffic on this kind of scale, though.
Yeah, I suspect karting traffic's slightly different to cars around Croft circuit, I think, anyway. But the Crown Paints, the liveried Elite Works BMW still going well in 6th position. Not far behind him is Colin Gillespie in 7th, Neil Primrose in 8th. Matthew Hampson dropped to 9th, but he's running there ahead of Andy Stocco, who completes the top 10. We've had 12 minutes of this race. Cole Swift leads, Steve Cheetham in 3rd, getting away from Andy Marston now as he comes up across the line to complete 8 laps. And in 3rd position, then Marston is 1.7 seconds behind Cheetham, and Cheetham is 12 behind the race leader. There's though Marston still under pressure from Simon Morgan, going very well in his 2.4 litre Honda Civic.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've only had about 12 or 13 minutes of this restarted race. There is Steve Cheetham then in 2nd position, putting a bit of dirt on. Problems now for the Morkov. He's got a wheel that's parting company with the car. Whether that's because of hitting a curb or hitting something else too hard, but that is looks like a hub failure or possibly something like that on the 18 car, but that car very much out of the race from a very promising 4th position.
Yeah, after we were saying how well he was going, Liam Bidgway's Elise seems to be in trouble. That went really well yesterday. He's a few laps down, so whether he's stopped or certainly in problems. Alan Henderson's progress, but he's up to 40th. He's about to catch the back of the pack after starting late.
There's the Caswell car, and there is Sammy Venable, just lapping number 316, Ivan Mayers, who's kindly brought us a bottle of water each here in the commentary box, as well as Kit Kats and chocolate biscuits, which may well have melted by now because it's pretty warm in here, but many thanks to Ivan for that. Anyway, there is the 235 car of Venables. That is Simon Morgan, who's out of his car looking for somewhere reasonably safe to stand. I think the marshals have beckoned him over to the barriers where they are behind with their marshal's post. There's the race. You do not see much of Carl Swift recently, but he's just been quietly pulling away to the tune of 12 or 13 seconds or something like that. He's done the best lap of the race as well, 1:31.08,
which is 1.5 seconds slower than he did on the initial start, which shows you how much perhaps you take your tyres away on just that first flying lap. On the last couple of laps though, Cheetham starting to close in slightly. He's just done a personal best of 1:32.32 to bring the gap down to 11 seconds. As you said, it was up to 13 at one point, and he's pulled out 2.5 seconds in 2 laps to Andy Marston, who is 5 seconds ahead of William Caswell and Sammy Venable, to battle over that position. Colin Gillespie 6th, 7th is Neil Primrose, Matthew Hampson is 8th, Andy Stokey is 9th, and the Class B leaders into the top 10 now, and that is Luke Handley.
We're just watching on screen there the 790 car from Adrian Burge, and the 76 car of Michael Downey. They were just going through shots in the 2 Porsche Boxsters. Just about to come through shot here on the start and finish line as well. So let's head down to Tom in the pit lane.
Yeah, guys, I've just got an update on the 86 of Joe Locke. I'm not sure whether you picked it up on camera or not, but they've had a very serious brake fluid leak. Every time he was pressing the pedal, there was fluid just pouring out the bottom of the car. So he had a very, very long pedal. Of course, not the best idea when you're coming down the extremely long straights here at Croft. But yeah, they've had that issue. It looks like the wheels are back on at the moment. I can see them down at the end of the pit lane from where I'm stood. The wheels are back on it, but I'm not sure whether they are going back out. And finally, the update on Alan Henderson in the number 90 Lotus Elise S2. So what happened with them during the red flag, they changed the spark plugs over, they checked the compression on the engine, couldn't find any gremlins or faults with it, and so they decided that the best course of action was to just go back out and see how it would run. So yeah, that was it, as simple as that for Alan Henderson. And if there's anything else that happens in the pit lane during the race, I'll keep you updated. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Tom Butterworth down there in the pit lane. How is Alan Henderson going? I think 40th on the screen. His best lap is a 1:31.71, so he's actually pretty much on the pace there, not too far off the pace of the race leader Carl Swift.
Indeed, obviously the big problem being that he started over a lap later than anybody else. But there is Carl Swift then coming down into the complex. His lead for 3 laps now in a trot has been closed in by Steve Cheetham. The gap's now 11.3 seconds. Cheetham still pulling away from Mark. behind. There's Marston's who's come through short. There's Caswell. So Venables is staying with him now, isn't he? After perhaps losing a bit of time early on in the traffic, perhaps getting more used to it. And behind, there's a good battle developing between Colin Gillespie and Neil Primrose.
There is that Boxster again that we saw a couple of laps ago. And there it is, it's Adrian Burge and Michael Daly, and that is the number 12 car that they are circulating with at the moment. That is for position 19th, 20th and 21st position, also for a Class B battle as well between those two cars. And in the 12th corner, it's Tom Rogers, of course, the driver from Newark, in the green Volkswagen Golf, which looks absolutely fantastic.
And he got around the outside at Tower to pass the first of those Porsches. So actually Burge is falling behind both Downey and Rogers at the start of this lap. As we've now worked 11 laps of it, it's lap 12 for the leader. I think these guys are still on in their 11th. As you say, they're Class B cars. Leading that class is Luke Handley by 3 seconds over Phil Driver. Chris Freeman is third. Fourth is Mark Grice. Fifth is Ben Short in the MX-5. Sixth is Andy Bailey. Then this is a battle for seventh that we were watching. But here's Steve Cheetham, who's second on that lap. He did fall away a bit more from Cole Swift, so the gap's come back out to 13 seconds.
Yeah, and 1:32 left on the clock, so just over an hour and a half left to go here in this Tegiwa Club Enduro race at Croft, round 2 of the 2021 Championship. And retirement there, I'm afraid, for the BMW. That's the 707 car of Jonathan Barrett, all the way from Tunbridge in Kent. His E46 330 is a bit crunched at the front.
Oh, right, but it's starting to move again.
Yeah.
So whether he's going to get the car to a place of safety again, that was on at the exit of the chicane, much like the Morga Civic. He's on the rallycross track at the moment, isn't he? Yeah, as I see that damage, I wonder if he has clipped the tyre stack. It's quite possible, but hopefully he's just getting himself into a place of safety.
Well, he's driving all the way up the grass, isn't he? So you would think that might be what he's trying to do, but we'll see. He's now I think, to get back onto the circuit now, though, so possibly he'll just try to get the car back to the pit lane.
That's right, yeah.
That's the 707 car in shot with a bit of damage to the front of it.
That's a Class C car, and that class is being headed still by Rowan Lundy in the Celica, 8 seconds ahead of Alex Livesley in the Honda Civic. Third in that class is Chris Webster's Mazda MX-5. Fourth is Graham Kelly's BMW 325i. So the car that was on pole, James Kell, he's fallen, I think, something like 6th position. So he's lost some positions, therefore.
There is the Downey and Rogers battle, and this is within Class B. It's 19th and 20th over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th place within Class B that they're battling for as well. Mentioned the green car together. Michael Daly has been doing Club Enduro for a few seasons, and usually goes pretty well in that Boxster, but he's got that big green Golf imposing itself in his mirrors at the moment, trying to find a way through.
He finished 6th in the Class B Championship last year. See the slippery surface flags out. Could be for debris, couldn't it?
Could be.
Through the chicane.
Then they've got the 167 car ahead, so that's the Clive Chisnell, Neil Chisnell Mazda MX-5. I think it's Clive Chisnell that started that car, the 2 drivers from Leyland in Lancashire.
Jonathan Barrett's made it back to the pit lane. Of course, it might be his car that the debris was on the at the chicane form. That battle between those two Class B cars have just lapped a car. That was 167, which would be Clive Chisnell in his Mazda MX-5.
There's this battle then, continuing for 7th place within Class B at the moment. There's good battles all the way down the order, I can tell you, in this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race at the moment. But up front, it's still Carl Swift leading by 13 seconds. We're about 4 minutes away from the pit lane window opening for until the last 15 minutes of the 110-minute race. Is Tom Rogers going to get a run on the Porsche down the straight? No, I don't think he is. The Porsche looks to accelerate away a little better, a little quicker.
It's rear engine over the rear wheels, I suspect.
Exactly, that really does help, doesn't it? It makes the difference. But over a lap time, these two do look quite evenly matched, I would say.
Absolutely right. Another battle of two very different cars I've noticed watching outside the window is for 6th overall, Colin Gillespie's BMW M4 versus the Ginetta G20 of Neil Primrose, where perhaps they'll pick that up a bit later on. They're just actually coming into the complex now, nose to tail, but a good battle. It's hard to know which one to watch, isn't it? The Downey and Rogers battle now is almost overlapping, heading down towards Tower, not quite. They're also overlapping the two cars I said coming up across the line of Gillespie and Primrose, but I think Rogers has got the place in the Gulf.
He has done, although it runs a little bit wide on the exit of the corner, but no, the number 12 car does go through to 7th place within Class B. They've got the race leader bearing down on them as well to put a lap on them before too much longer. You could just see Carl Swift's car in the background there. Through Barcroft they go, and it looks like we're just able to start making a slight break away from the Downey Porsche there.
So there is the leader, so he's lapped about half the cars already, hasn't he, Cole Swift, which I guess is what you'd expect. And there they are in front, still battling away. Tom Rogers now into P19 overall, and shortly we'll be into that pit stop window which you mentioned, Ian.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see whether any drivers do opt to make an early stop. Of course, there's always this question of whether there'll be a safety car and whether you want to build that into your pit stop strategy. Of course, there's no guarantee that there will be one. It's also a question of whether you're driving solo or 2 drivers or even 3 drivers in the case of some teams. As Carl Swift gets his car past Michael Downey, separating him from Tom Rogers now. Yeah, if you've got 2 drivers, are they roughly evenly matched? Do you want to do equal stints, or do you want to do your fastest driver with the longest stint possible? I mean, really, Carl Swift and Rob Baker out the lead. They're pretty evenly matched, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah, and they certainly look good so far here at Croft. 15 seconds now ahead of solo driver Steve Cheetham, who is 6 seconds ahead of Andy Marston. Colin Gillespie's pitted. We're not quite into the window though, are we? So his M4 got a problem. He's out of 6th position, so Neil Primrose will be promoted into that place. So the Colin Gillespie BMW M4 in the pits at the end of 15 laps.
Oh, and off goes the MX-5. I think that's the Chisnell car, isn't it? Clive Chisnell's just been off the road there, and the Class C, Sadiq will pass it.
Darren Keller's pitted now too. We're still not quite at the pit window, and he, the Class C Championship leader, this is.
The pit lane window open board is now being shown.
So that happened slightly before 25.
Well, but certainly by the clock that we're going by. But
Yeah,
the pit lane window open board is now being shown.
I wonder if the 110 minutes did start slightly earlier then.
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of confusion as to what's going on there.
So hopefully they both are then pit stop. True pit stops, and James, obviously the Kells are hoping there's not going to be a safety car, put the quicker driver in, which is James Kell, British GT racer, and see what kind of lap times he can do with that. But race leader completes 16 laps. Cole Swift is still 15 seconds clear of Steve Cheetham, who did another personal best lap, 1 minute 32.16. So as the fuel loads come down, tyres are obviously holding up well in this heat. And Andy Marston is now 9 seconds behind Steve Cheetham in 3rd place. For 4th place, it's still William Caswell ahead of Sammy Venables, but not by much. And then in 6th is Neil Primrose Ginetta.
Well, over the line comes the Holden Commodore, which I think has 1 or 2 handling issues. It looks to be struggling to get the power down coming out of the hairpin that time. Very tight left-hand hairpin at the end of the lap here at Croft Circuit.
Across the line goes the Class B leader. Come through your shot now. That's Luke Handley, who is being caught by Phil Driver's Porsche Boxster, who's only 2 seconds behind him. So it's a 2-second gap in Class B for Luke Handley's Golf over Phil Driver's Boxster. And then close to him is Christopher Freeman. So the top 3 in Class B are separated by about 3 seconds.
Alan Henderson's now up to 31st as he sort of works his way past some of the Class C and B cars, and still a lap behind the leaders, of course, but he'll get himself, I would think, up into top 10 contention by the end if he is reliable, and the Lotus remains reliable to the end of the race, having made that change of spark plugs during the red flag period.
Indeed. Class C, that's still Rowan Lundy, 7 seconds ahead of Alex Livesey, and the two of them are well clear of anybody else within that class. Out the window, I can see James Kell getting aboard the family Mazda MX-5.
There's Darren Ball. He is going past the Mini.
He's got himself up to 9th place now in the 1 Series.
Yeah, so he's doing pretty well in this car that's relatively unfamiliar to him because he switched from the Porsche that he had been racing and indeed raced in the opening round of the Club Enduro Championship.
Behind him on the road is Alan Henderson's Lotus Elise. Not looking at that now, though. We're looking down to the Jim Clark S's. Who can we spot here? There's Steve Cheetham, the 2nd place car, which is now 18 seconds behind Cole Swift. And he's got Liam Bidgeway's Elise behind him. I think had issues early on. Yeah, he's down in 39th position.
Can we hear again from Tom Butterworth, I wonder?
Mic check, 1, 2. Hi guys, yeah, just an update on the 707, which is Jonathan Barrett in the BMW E46 330. We saw that going a bit slowly, just coming through the first section of the circuit. We're not quite sure, or I couldn't get to the bottom of what actually happened to cause the damage, but they do seem to be trying to fix the bodywork at the front of the car, and we'll be heading back out as soon as they possibly can. We have had the first couple of pit stops come in as well. I've just watched through the number 15, which is Colin Gillespie in the M4 as well. So they've had a really quick turnaround. Obviously, it's a time-limited pit stop here, but it was really nice and fluid from the guys here as well. So just an update on the 707. It looks like they will be going back out as soon as they can.
Thanks, Tom. Hopefully that car will get back out into the race. We're watching the TWP Racing car on screen at the moment. John Munro, the driver from Scotland, in the Mazda MX-5. He was just going through shot there. And we've got this action down at the complex as well. And it's just a constant stream of cars, isn't it? With so many out there, still about 40 cars out there.
Through that group with the Class B leaders,
yeah.
Luke Handley still in front, just coming across the line now. I think he's pulled out, and Phil Driver is still there, isn't he, in 2nd place, so I think the gap might be slightly bigger. Then still Freeman in 3rd, and not far behind is Mark Grice in 4th, so the top 4 in Class B not separated by too much. Luke Handley's lead now 2.7 seconds over Phil Driver.
Yeah, so that's a close-ish battle within the class as we're watching the Lotus going through there. That's Peter Mansfield still at the wheel of that car, we think. Rob Boston to take it over for the 2nd part of the race, and I would expect that he will sort of climb back up the order. That car at the moment is running 25th position, and it's going to be roughly 10th, I would think, in Class B, something like that at the moment. Rob Boston, a quick driver once he gets on board for the 2nd half of the race.
Indeed, he was on pole in that class by nearly 2 seconds actually, so there could be quite a drive on in the 2nd half of the race from Rob Boston. He's battling, Peter Mansfield is battling with Stuart Mead there, isn't he? He's at 4th position it is for 24th overall. They're actually behind the Class C leader, aren't they?
Yeah.
Rowan Lundy's Celica. Another car into the pits. Now this is Matthew Hampson, 7th placed E46 M3, to hand over to Andy Schultz, who again should be quicker than him. He certainly was yesterday in road sports. I think it's the first time we've actually seen Matthew Hampson start the car, because that's normally what Schultz does, and I think he's done all right, hasn't he, in 7th position? Yeah,
solid start, just dropping down to 8th on the screen now as he's come into the pits, as the Stokoe and McDonald car, driven by Andy Stokoe at the moment, goes through in 7th position as a result of that. I think Carl Swift's just got across the line again, hasn't he, to complete his 20th lap. Best lap still the 1:31.08, but that time he was in the 31s again, a 1:31.66. Drivers who are setting green times, which means they're going faster. Luke Handley, a 1:34.47 last time through. Class B leader, of course. A bit further back, Crook and Livesley. Gets Alec Livesley at the wheel at the minute, 1:37.54. And he is 2nd in Class C, behind the Lundy's Celica, the 7 Motorsport Celica, at the moment.
Battle developing for 5th overall, about to come across the line because Neil Primrose has caught Sammy Venables for 5th, so the Ginettas caught the BMW. That gap was 2.7 seconds at the end of the previous lap.
Yeah, just watching this pit stop on screen. Of course, it's a 3.5 minute pit stop that all the drivers have to take. Cars coming in at an angle and then being pushed back out before they're released into the pits. And it'll be Andy Schultz that will take over that car. We'll see what he can do with it in the second part of the race. That's the number 69 BMW M3.
Former Britcar champion Andy Schultz aboard a Ferrari, so very experienced driver, sharing with Matthew Hampson in this car now for the last couple of seasons within Club Enduro. And so that pit stop goes through. Up front is a 21-second gap now for Rob Baker. For Cole Swift over Steve Cheetham, and Cheetham's got 6 seconds to Andy Marston, who's got 6 seconds to Will Caswell, who has 10 seconds now over Sammy Venable, who's got Neil Primrose very close to him. So that's the closest battle up front, and they'll be coming back to the complex, I think, to complete their 21st lap of the race very shortly.
Hour and 17 minutes left to go. That is the race leading car on screen now, the Area Motorsports Seat, driven by Carl Swift at the moment, and it's just coming up to pass the 27 Mark Grice driven Volkswagen Golf R. And Grice, of course, started out his racing career in Civics a few years ago, as we're watching the 29 car go through. That's Andy Roby's BMW 318 IS. He didn't make it to the end of the opening round of the championship at Donington, unfortunately, hoping for better fortunes here today.
Neil Primrose has pitted the Ginetta G20 from 6th place, so he was pretty close to Colin Gillespie earlier, who has pitted too, so when he comes out it'll be interesting to see who's got the advantage there. Notice for Class C, the lead gap's coming down. It's only 4 seconds now from Rowan Lundy to Alex Livesey, so he's catching in the Honda Civic.
Hour and 17 minutes to go in this race. And Tom's got an interview in the pit lane. Let's head down to Tom Butterworth once again.
Hi guys, so just another update on the number 90 Lotus Elise that we saw some problems with earlier on, Alan Henderson. So unfortunately that problem does seem to be terminal. He turned some decent lap times out there, but I've just spoken with him and he said that the Class B cars were unfortunately pulling away from him down the straight, so better to park it and make the best of it and save the car as best you can, and that's it for the day for them, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks Tom for that update from the pit lane. So we've got 76 minutes of this race left to go. There's our second place driver, Steve Cheetham, in the Porsche, and that then behind is that that's the third place car, isn't it? Just coming through now, passing the Bidgeway Lotus, and it's got the Golf right behind it as well. As into the pits comes the 790 car, which is the Adrian Burge box to hand over.
Class B leaders are together. Luke Handley has been caught by Phil Driver. These cars are coming out the hairpin across the line shortly. They're behind Darren Ball, so that's 8th, 9th and 10th together on the track. But importantly, the two Class B leaders, you can see this on your screen now. Luke Handley has been caught by Phil Driver, a former British GT racer, raced an Aston Martin. His British GT career ended in rather a nasty fashion at Brands Hatch a few years ago, but great to see that he's been out in Club Enduro over the last few years, and this is by far his best race. He's in this Porsche Boxer. He's chasing Luke Handley, the champion in the class from last year. They're headed into the chicane on lap 22 of the race, I think it is, for these cars.
Yeah, 8th and 9th overall they're running, just behind Darren Ball, who's in 7th place, but a Class A car, but, running actually on a pretty similar pace to them. And then it's the Freeman Civic in the background, which is 3rd in Class C, so not too far behind either. First 3 cars covered by about 2.5 seconds at the end of the lap. Into the pits comes the 32 car of Leon Bidgeway to make its stop, by the way. The 707 car of Jonathan Barrett's now back into the race after its pit stop to repair some damage that occurred in slightly mystifying circumstances. And that's the 69 car now back out in the race of Andy Schultz after that's been handed over from Matthew Hampson.
Okay, so how have they come out overall? 35th, but ahead of Colin Gillespie, so they are the leading pit stopper by the looks of things, which I guess kind of makes sense. But here are the Class B leaders: Luke Handley's Area Motorsport Volkswagen Golf, head of the Porsche Boxster. Phil Driver, as they turn left then through the hairpin. She said Christopher Freeman's not too far away from them. There he is, just in shot. So the top three in Class B, all in shot after 22 laps of racing. As they cross line, there's a stop-go penalty board going out. I don't think we can see a number.
I suspect that might be for number 69,
right.
For the Hampson and Schultz car, because that car wasn't in pit lane at 45-degree angle. I don't think you needed your protractor to see that it wasn't quite in the right angle, so I suspect that might be for the Schultz car, I'm afraid.
Well, if it is, it's a 2-minute penalty for that.
Exactly.
So that's going to ruin their race somewhat, and it is, you're absolutely right. Well spotted, Ian.
Yeah, so that has spoilt their race, but yes, all the drivers required to pull in that 45-degree angle because so busy is the pit lane. Obviously the pit lane was pretty empty when that car was in, but that's not the point. It could get busy at any time and you're required to stop at 45 degrees because of the tight pit lane here at Croft Circuit.
And they did the road sports race yesterday, and they did the right thing yesterday.
Exactly. Well, it's just one of those things, probably in the heat of the moment, you pull in and you realise you're not in quite the right position, and by then it's too late, isn't it? There's the 16 car going through. That's the Phil Driver car that we've been keeping our eye on. That's 0.7 of a second behind Luke Handley. There is Handley, still Darren Ball ahead, and Chris Freeman just behind in the Civic as well. They're about to be lapped though, aren't they, by the outright race leader Carl Swift. So that will mean they've lapped everyone up to, we will have lapped everyone up to including 7th place if he gets past Darren Ball in the next lap or two, which he probably will.
Driver is very close to Handley here on the exit of the hairpin as they come across the line. The Golf staying in front at the moment. Luke Handley doing a great job actually in the first stint of this race. Got second place in Class B, and is ahead then of Driver still as they head then into Hawthorne Corner, the long right-hander that takes you onto the chicane. So it's the Area Motorsport Golf ahead of the Porsche Boxster. And then the Christopher Freeman Civic is very much keeping them in close distance.
And that is a spin for the 130 Civic. That's Josh Luke and actually Luca Diella at the wheel of the car at the moment. And so Luca Diella having a spin, but fortunately he kept it out of the barriers. I did worry about that for a moment. Got a couple of cars coming into the pits now as well. We've got the 22 BMW and the 126 Caswell Seat from 4th position. The 22 BMW, of course, is the Luke Browse car.
Okay, in the traffic, pretty similar gap between the top two in Class B, still Luke Handley and Phil Driver. There's a 3rd place car, that's Christopher Freeman, who I think goes solo this season, or so far at least, in the Alpha liveried Honda Civic. And there's the overall leader, the Area Motorsports Seat, currently driven by Carl Swift. You can see the top 6 in all the classes now on your screen.
Yeah, and the 130 Luca Diella car has come in. He will hand over to Josh Leake for the second part of the race. So, there you see Luke Handley and Phil Driver separated it by 0.3 of a second. Ryan Lundy's got about 6 seconds in hand over Alec Livesley. And there's a long gap back to Graham Kelly's BMW 3rd place within Class C. But up front, it's a big lead, 26 seconds for Carl Swift over Steve Cheetham and Andy Marston.
Okay, they're the Class B leaders, still as close they have been for a little while now through Clairvaux. There's Freeman in 3rd. Mark Grice has dropped away a bit in 4th place. And then Andy Bailey about a further 10 seconds behind in 5th. But considering we've been going now for 40 minutes, those Class B cars aren't very far away from one another. No,
it's very impressive to see exactly how close together they are. And I can see that yep, there is the Seat of the race just going past Phil Driver there, and this may just split the battle up a little bit, I guess, as Carl Swift goes through in the Area Motorsport Seat.
This Andy Roby a bit slow?
Looks like it might be. I mentioned it was a non-finish last time, and Neil Primrose going slowly as well in the Ginetta.
Yeah, so he pitted recently, and yes, that's much slower speed than it should be. Shame for him, but that car's been going well, hasn't it?
It has. It's been rapid, but having just made his stop, yeah, it's just indicating to other cars to pass him on the right-hand side. 707 cars back in again. I would have thought that the stop it made would have served as his mandatory stop. Did he stop in the window? Well, I think he might have come in before the window, the 707 car of Jonathan Barrett. We won't worry too much about that though, because it'll be well down the order.
Indeed.
So there's the two area motorsport cars together then. Again, a photo of that. The Golf just being passed by the Seat.
Jonathan Barrett left the pitch as soon as he come into it, almost.
Right. Rather odd.
Luke Handley's not far away from lapping Peter Mansfield, so Rob Boston's got a lot of work to do in the second half of this race, I think.
69 has come in, and Schultz has come in to serve his 2-minute stop-go penalty. So, yeah, that's basically a lap and a third that will cost them, isn't it? Probably more like a lap and a half by the time we take into account coming into and going out of the pit lane.
Yeah, so that's not good for them. There's Steve Cheetham, he's second still. He's 24 seconds behind the leader, Cole Swift. Was a bit quicker on the last lap, but that's probably traffic related. He's 11 seconds ahead of Andy Marston. So he's just gently been pulling away. Fourth is Sammy Venables. The similar car of Andy Stocco is behind in fifth, but a long way behind. Into the pit for a second time here comes Colin Gillespie, so problems it seems with his M4.
Yeah, he's been coming quite slowly into the pit lane. He's already been in for his mandatory stop, so I suspect Colin Gillespie is going to be out of this race, which will be a frustration, having qualified reasonably well this weekend.
Yes, and he was running inside the top 6, I think, earlier.
Yeah, started 12th on the original grid, made up some places. The Caswell set, I think, is on its way back out into the race by the looks of it, having made its pit stop. But we're yet to have in any of the first three, Swift, Cheetham or Marston, have we? As into the pits, by the way, comes the 19 car, which we were mentioning a few minutes ago, Peter Mansfield, to hand over to Rob Boston.
So we shall see what Boston can do. So he's got about a lap behind. He's got 100 seconds to catch, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, it was almost 2 seconds a lap quicker in qualifying.
There's the 59 car. That's the Together We Progress TWP Motorsport car. John Munro, possibly again in trouble heading into the pit lane, but doing so at rather reduced speed. So that's John Munro, possibly in problems, I'm afraid.
Okay. There's the Class C leader, the Toyota Celica of Roan Lundy. It's been a good first stint from him. He is 10 seconds now ahead of Alex Livesley, so he's pulling away again, and these two are quite some way ahead of Graham Kelly, who's third of in Class C.
But good to have more Class C entries here this weekend than we had at Donington for the opening round.
Yes, a much bigger grid, absolutely. And it's a long way to go, as they say.
It certainly is. Over an hour left in this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race at Croft. There's the Class B leading
and
car.
a change, because Phil Driver on
I was just about to say.
on this lap is ahead of Luke Handley. Coming out of the hairpin now and across the line. You'll see this on your screens. A Porsche ahead of the Volkswagen for the first time.
But for how much longer? Because the Golf getting back alongside Phil Driver's Porsche on the outside line now, switches to the inside line as they go down to Clairvaux, and it's the Porsche that holds on. Who's watching the 59 car in the pit lane, so they're making this the mandatory stop, although maybe there's other issues as well that need to be resolved. You can see the team working hard there underneath the car. Getting the car jacked up to help with whatever it is that they need to do down there in the pit lane, at the far end of the pit lane, I think, aren't they, from where we are?
Class B leader's about to lap the Class C leader, going down to the Jim Clark S's, with Driver still only just in front of Luke Handley. They are now well up in the overall order because the pit stop is in front. They're 6th and 7th overall. Here they are then behind the Celica, heading through Barcroft, and Phil Driver then heading the way in the open top Porsche Boxster. He's lapping also the MX-5, the turbocharged car. I think Ben Short has handed over now. But down towards the complex goes Gillespie then, the class leader, but only just. And the three of them are pretty much together now because Handley has been caught by Christopher Freeman. They turn their way into the complex. The top three in Class B are absolutely together after 45 minutes of racing with no pause between amongst it. So absolutely brilliant to see how competitive this class is this year. And Handley runs out wide.
He does, and that might give Chris Freeman the opportunity to pull alongside. Can he gather the momentum down the straight? He's right in the toe of the Golf as they head down towards Clervaux Corner.
They did pass a black flag, so somebody else is getting a penalty.
Yeah, because Schultz has been in and out having served his. We'll see if we can pick up on the number on that car in a moment. But yeah, the Golf here just seems to have gone a little bit off the boil, really, doesn't it? It's been passed by a driver, and now it's under quite a lot of threat from Chris Freeman.
Yeah, driver has just started to eke away. I thought we saw that mistake, didn't we, from Handley from the end of the 29th lap of the race, which is lap 30. And Handley turns his way then through Tower Bend, putting that Salika between himself and the chasing Chris Freeman as they turn their way onto the Jim Clark S's now. So good to see how close that is this season. Of course, Class B was won by William Stacey last time out, who's not here. This time, there's driver then, and Luke Handley's getting back on terms with the class leader now.
Yeah, odd lap or two, but trying to regather his composure and take the fight once again to the Class B leader. There is the top three absolutely together coming through. It's the 19 car that's getting a stop-go penalty, and that again I think is for the same reason. Actually, again, another car that was in the pit lane not at the required 45-degree angle.
That's the Rob Boston car, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So I thought we might see an interesting chase. I think that'll be too much now, of course. Yeah. So that puts them out of contention. The Class B lead, there's still plenty of cars in contention, not least the three of them that are at the front of the field at the moment, having not stopped yet. We're not halfway through yet, are we? So plenty of time to go. There is the Alpha Power Cleaning Honda Civic of Christopher Freeman, who was so close to winning the championship last year. I think it was he that was just 1 point behind Luke Handley after the shortened season we had last year. So he'll be hoping for better things this time. And he's right there in third place behind the second place Handley in the class leader, which of course continues to be Phil Driver after we made that position not that long ago. And they've fallen 5 seconds behind Darren Ball now, who they were battling for position overall not that long ago.
Colin Gillespie into the pit lane for, I think that's the third time now, isn't it? So he's out of contention. And also into the pits now is 188, and he is the driver that's third place in Class C, Graham Kelly in the Porsche, sorry, in the BMW E46 325i, I should say.
Okay. Out front, by the way, 27 seconds the gap now, Cole Swift. 30 seconds even the gap now, Cole Swift to Steve Cheetham. So I'm not sure if we might need a refresh on the timing tower, because that's slightly different what I've got on my screen to the tower.
So,
but here are our Class B leaders then, still Driver ahead of Handley and Freeman. They turn their way through the hairpin, and out they come again. Driver with this slightly bigger margin, but not a particularly big gap as they pass the Stratford BMW that of course was into strife early on in this.
Yeah, that was the Andrew and Christopher Etheridge of car drivers, all the way from North Wales. A long trip back home for them tonight. So Driver and Handley still disputing the lead of Class B. They've got one of the Class C front runners, James Kell, in between them at the moment.
Yes, so James Keller will be looking to try and do better lap times than what the Lundy Salika's doing, really, won't he? And he'll be well used to this long stint. Of course, they're the champions from the class last year. 1:38.41 is their best lap, which is actually slower than the class leaders, but of course, quite possibly a lot of the fastest laps were done right at the beginning of the race in this.
Hour to go then, and it's number 1 that's leading, Carl Swift, from number 43 Steve Cheetham in second place. Number 37 Andy Marston is third. In fourth place it's the 235 car of Sammy Venables. Fifth is number 25 Darren Ball. Sixth and leading Class B. You can see this battle on track at the moment. That's number 16 Phil Dryborough, head of 51 Luke Handley, and 4 Chris Freeman. Fourth within Class B and 9th overall is number 95 Andy Bailey. Rounding out the top 10 is number 12, which is Tom Rogers. 11th is number 76, Michael Downey. 12th is the Treble 5 car of James Elford and Mark Lloyd-Jones. 13th is the class-leading Toyota Celica Class C, car 827, Rowan and Richard Lundy, and they are about 5 seconds ahead at the moment of Alec Livesley in the Honda Civic that lies 14th. Treble 7. 15th is number 8. That's Chris Webster in the MX-5. 16th is the Holden Commodore of Matty Taylor and Will Ashmore. 17th, the 126 car of Caswell and Kaner. They've been into the pits. 18th is 98, Rory Baptiste in the BMW E46 330i. 19th is the 117, Martin Gadsby, BMW Compact. And 20th is the 316, Ivan Mayer's Mazda MX-5, and he is yet to make his stop.
He's almost overlapping for the Class B lead now, because Luke Handley is all over the back of Phil Driver as they head down into the right-handed corner at Tower Bend. And yeah, nothing can separate these two cars. All these top three in Class B are solo drives too, so this could last the whole distance with the interruption of the pit stop. So the pit stop here is going to be crucial for these teams to be able to do it in the 3.5 minutes and really no more. So Gillespie Driver turns right there, then into Sunny and out of Sunny and down straight into the complex. The gap at the beginning of that was 1.2 seconds. It's not that now though, as Luke Handley is right on terms with him as they turn their way through the tight section that completes the lap here at Croft Circuit. It's about over 6th, 7th and 8th overall. Of course, they've got a few Class A cars that have already pitted that might spring back ahead of them, but they're not worried about that.
Leon Bridgeway back into the pits for the second time during the course of this race in his Elise, outside the top 20. Certainly got drive-through penalties, we've got stop-and-go penalties being advertised to drivers now on the pit wall on its car 56 that is going to need to come in. That's James Scott, and I think that may have been an issue with a pit stop infringement, but not a 45-degree one on this occasion, so it's just a drive-through penalty that car will serve.
Okay. Class B leaders exit the chicane, maybe a slightly larger margin for Driver, but he did dip a wheel over the grass though. Into
the pits comes the number 37 car, that's Andy Marston from third position, so the first of our very leading overall contenders into the pit lane, and he pulls in at 45 degrees, you can see, nicely done, and that will be a 3.5 minute stop that they will make, and pretty much actually at the halfway stage of this 110-minute race, just about 57 minutes left to go. He is driving solo, so no particular considerations there in terms of two drivers and getting stints of the right length. Still this battle rages on though. Phil Dryborough in the 16 Porsche. You can see he has got a bit more daylight between himself now, but the real fight on for second and third within that class, with Chris Freeman in the number 4 car and the 51 car just ahead of it of Luke Handley. 15, Colin Gillespie into the pits for the 4th time, but also down in the pits is Tom Butterworth.
Hi guys, just an update on the 44 of Neil Primrose. Unfortunately, the issue there does look terminal. I just spoke with Neil, and he says that they were having an issue with the oil pressure on the car. The needle was bouncing back and forth, and he didn't want to risk the engine anymore, so I brought it in. They did do a bit of a repair job on it and thought it was gonna get back out, but no, unfortunately, that's them called it for a day.
Why does it always rain on Neil Primrose, we ask ourselves. He's the Travis drummer out of the race, I'm afraid to say. So, as we are pretty much at the halfway mark in this race, 55 minutes left to go, Josh.
Fastest lap of the race has just been set by Andy Schultz. According to that, if he didn't have that penalty, maybe there would have been something else in it for them. 31 laps into the race, 1 minute 30.90. Fastest lap of the race, car number 69. They're 22nd overall.
But 4 laps or so behind the leaders.
Indeed. Yeah. Of course, 2.5 laps have been lost by the leaders when they picked. A decent result still in store, but Andy Schultz showing his pace. He's a quick driver, of course. He did only actually qualify 5th, and that lap time is identical to his qualifying pace.
It's impressive consistency. Several hours apart in very different conditions this afternoon. Well, this evening now as well for this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race. 25, Darren Ball into the pits. Now he was going well, wasn't he? was actually up into 4th by the time he came in, with all the other drivers having made their stops ahead. He was just ahead of that Class B battle. Also coming in now is the 14 car, that's Andy Stoko. Now, they've been on already.
I think so.
Yes, they have.
So would be.
They were about 4 laps off the lead, so yeah, I think that car's already been in at least once. So that's the 14 car.
No.
Andy Stoko, David McDonald, the Canyon Racing entry.
Probably David McDonald, wasn't it? Therefore,
I suspect it was. Andy Stoko having started the car.
Phil Driver has crossed the line again. He's 1.25 seconds ahead of Luke Handley. I'm just looking up Phil's driving resume. He did British GT or that similar type of racing for about 7 years actually. Started in 2010, did a bit of European racing in what was the Blancpain Championship. Generally in Aston Martins, but had that big crash at Brands Hatch 5 years ago now. And they've been doing club racing since, and I'm sure he's enjoying it as much as he did with those bigger cars. And this, I think, is his best performance in Club Enduro, leading the way, 1.2 seconds ahead of Luke Handley, who's only 6 tenths ahead of Chris Freeman. But I think we can have more news downstairs with Tom.
Hi guys, I'm here with John Monroe, driver of the 59 Mazda MX-5. Unfortunately, now retired from the race, but just tell us how was the race going and then tell us what happened with the car.
Yeah, it wasn't going great anyway, to be fair. We made a good start the first time round before the red flag, picked up a few positions, but then sadly we had a bit of a gearbox issue carrying over from qualifying. It's the first time the car's been out all year, so it was kind of a hopeful test for us. We thought we might get through it, but the gearbox problem in qualifying put us on the back foot. We solved that and then had a few other issues in the race. We developed a misfire probably about 20 minutes in, so our pace was about 5 seconds a lap slower. So at that point it was just trying to keep it going, finish the race, but sadly at the end of the day it's just too much, so we've had to call it a day.
Oh, that's a real shame. Yeah, some good pace in the car at least when it was running well, and hopefully we can get these gremlins out and get you back for flying again for the rest of the season.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I don't think we've got a guaranteed entry for Brands. There's been a few issues just with everything with the restrictions and stuff, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, if we can be back out, we definitely will be, and hopefully a little bit of testing under our belt, and we'll actually be able to bring the fright to the guys at the front. But yeah, it's good fun out there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Brands is a long way to come from Glasgow anyway, isn't it? So it might not be the worst thing if it doesn't happen.
Well, now I'm working at Silverstone now, so it should be okay. But we'll have to wait and see if we can get in.
Oh, well, in that case, it's only a short hop then, isn't it, down the road? But thanks for talking to us, John. Good luck for the rest of the season. Cheers.
If Tom can hear me, I think he might want to head into the direction of Andy Marston. Car number 37 hasn't returned from the pit lane. He was running third earlier on. As far as I can tell, he hasn't returned from the pit lane. He's dropping down the timing screens.
Yeah, the car's still there in the pit lane. I can see it parked outside the garages. Meanwhile, while we're hearing from John Monroe, the 16 car, the Class B leading Porsche of Phil Driver has come into the pit lane. So that means that this battle now is the battle for the lead in Class B, and it's right together on track. 51 Luke Handley and Chris Freeman, number 4, running in 4th and 5th positions overall.
Meanwhile, the overall lead has just set the fastest lap of the race. Cole Swift has got that back now, 1 minute 30.75. For the overall championship, every point counts. Again, the fastest lap, which they didn't manage at Donington Park, could be crucial come the end of the season. But here are the Class B leaders. Like you say, the 2 front-wheel drive cars, the Volkswagen Golf and the Honda Civic. Quite similar looking cars, aren't they? Of Luke Handley and of Christopher Freeman as they go down towards Tower Bend. And absolutely together they still are. Luke Handley, the champion from last year in this class. He beat Christopher Freeman by 1 point in 2020, and they're racing hard here after 37 laps of racing. 35 seconds behind into the 3rd place car in that class, Andy Bailey, who's just set his personal best lap.
This Class B battle heading through Barcroft then, with 50 minutes of the race left to go, and it really is like a sprint race between those two. At 62 now, Kevin Sylvain comes into the pit lane. I think that's for the 2nd time for him. He's already been in, so possibly Kevin Sylvain with the Mazda MX-5 62 having problems. But this Class B battle heads its way into the complex once again. Steve Cheetham in the Class A Porsche is the car ahead of them on track, a lap ahead of them. And he's then 2nd overall, Josh.
Notice Neil Primrose is back out after those issues he had.
Okay.
I just saw the Ginetta come through, but this Class B battle continues. They stay out with 50 minutes to go. And across the line they come, like you said, 4th and 5th overall now.
There's the class positions on screen now. You can see Baker and Swift still out in front. Phil Drybrough at that point still ahead, but Luke Handley and Chris Freeman now exchanging or battling for the Class B lead, with Drybrough having pitted. And Rowan Lundy still ahead in Class C, but that gap has, what has been 10 seconds, it's been down to about 4, it's back out to 9 seconds again between Lundy and Alec Livesley in the Honda 777. That's that Class B battle still on screen though, turning its way up and out of the right-hander Tower Corner, and through the Jim Clark S's and on to Barcroft, back end of the circuit.
Phil Drybrough has completed his pit stop and got himself ahead of Darren Ball on the road. Remember, he was behind earlier. So obviously a good stop for the Drybrough team.
Yeah, of course, because it's a fixed length pit stop, that's all about the lap in, lap out and getting into and out of the pit lane, more so than...
well, and of course actually doing your pit stops in 3.5 minutes, because if it lasts longer, you are going to lose time. So you can't so much gain time, you can easily lose time.
Yeah, you'd like to think that most people can't do their stops in that time.
Although Darren Ball's pace is well off, so I wonder if he's got a problem. 1 minute 45 his last lap.
Let's see if we can keep an eye out for Darren, see if we can spot anything going on with that car.
Mark Grice, who was well up earlier, so he handed over to Will Beach. They are 50 seconds behind Phil Drybrough now, so that's got a big gap.
So these two Class B cars still disputing the class lead. Of course, Club Enduro is for production-based cars, sports and GT and saloon type cars. Run to this power-to-weight ratio framework that's measured the flywheel, and it's 300 brake horsepower to the limit for Class A, 240 brake horsepower to the limit for Class B, and 180 brake horsepower the limit for Class C. So that's how it is separated. There's a lot more regulations than that. There have to be at least 50 examples have been produced and sold in the UK or Europe in order to be eligible. Oh, and the Holden has had a problem. Number 7, it's had a spin. I think it's off on the grass.
Down at Sunny.
I think it probably is, yeah. Back out into the race it will go.
Let's see, work out where they were.
They were 11th.
Oh, right. Yep. Well, you haven't made their pit stop. I had those issues early on.
Not the mandatory stop. I think they were in, weren't they, in the early stage, but not yet made their mandatory stop.
The pit stop leader, Brad Kaler, is up to 9th overall, isn't he? So that's pretty good going. A long way ahead of any other pit stopper.
Yeah, it's the 126 Seat.
I think I got a problem for Phil Drybrough, maybe. He's done a slow lap now, 1 minute 45. He's fallen back behind Darren Ball.
I can see in the pit lane the treble 7 car, that's the second place car in Class C, Alec Livesley has come in. So that's one that is having some more fuel put in it as well for this second part of the race. Refueling having to do within careful regulations. Has to be a fire extinguisher on hand as well, just in case of any problems with the refueling.
Phil Drybrough is just completing another lap now. We'll see if this lap is any better as he crosses the line to complete his 38th lap in the Porsche Boxer. Yeah, that's better. So it must have been a mistake last time, but that's 10 seconds he couldn't really afford to lose with how closely competitive the Class B battle has been today.
Absolutely, yes. We were hoping that we'd almost have the three of them together before the pit stops and the three of them together after the pit stops. Well, Phil Drybrough's made that just a little bit harder for himself, hasn't he? These two, the Golf and the Civic, still absolutely hammer and tongs. You wonder when they're going to make their stop, of course. They're both single drivers, so there's no consideration there. So perhaps they'll just go all the way until the sort of 15-minute limit at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's quite possible, isn't it?
Although say that, I thought that possibly Luke Handley was about to dive down the pit lane. He's elected not to, however, though.
Have you mentioned Sammy Venables?
No, because that car's dropping back down the board. Was it been in?
I wonder if, is that the car right
yeah, it is in there now, isn't it? The Sammy Venables car. Missed that coming in.
So I'd be interested to see where Brad Kaler's Seat is.
In relation to that one, once it goes back out, it's going to be it's going to be Michael Dark that takes over from Sammy in the BMW.
They were quite close before, weren't they?
Let's have another update from Tom in the pit lane.
Hi guys, yeah, I've just got a bit of an update on a number of cars that have had some issues. So the 790 Porsche Boxster 986 driven by Adrian Birch and Bruce Robinson. I've just spoken with one of those and they have said that they had a loss of power, oil pressure light came on and so they have parked it and that is them unfortunately finished for the day. The 62, which is the Mazda MX-5 of Kevin Sylvan, they came in with a misfire. They had the bonnet open, had a good look inside, had a good route around, and they have fixed, or seem to have fixed that issue, so they are back out on track. The 44 of Neil Pearson, Neil Primrose, who was in the Ginetta and told me personally that it was terminal. Well, they seem to have fixed the issue and they're back out on track, so really good work from his mechanics. And finally, the 37, which we're looking at here, has got a diff issue. So the diff has broken on this one, and so that looks like they are parked very much for the rest of the race. Thanks, guys.
So that was Andy Marston in the 37 car with that differential issue. The car that was running up inside the top three. As we're watching on screen still, this Class B battle is going past the Chisnell Mazda, now being driven by Neil Chisnell, I think, for this second part of the race.
Look who he's catching them. I know he's many laps down, he's probably not going to be a factor, but Rob Boston, his best lap is 2 seconds faster than the other Class B car. On the last lap, he did a 1:31.9, and that compared to the lap of the cars he's catching, 1:35, so he's lapping 3 seconds quicker than them. If they didn't have that penalty, I think he might have been able to work the car into contention. I don't think it's going to be possible now. Rob Boston is well down the overall order, 35th place, and they're 3rd and 4th overall. But the Lotus Elise is a great car, I think, for Class B. We saw Will Stacey winning it at Donington, and this track, which perhaps suits us a bit more, is absolutely flying there. And he's got to try and find a way past. Of course, the Lotus isn't quite so quick down the straights, but Rob Boston, a super experienced race driver. And now he's going to come down the inside of Christopher Freeman into the hairpin. And he gets through, and is he going to get both of them almost at the hairpin? He almost does, which is pretty impressive, but he won't have the straight line speed, of course.
No, it does sort of disrupt this level battle a little bit for the Class B lead as well momentarily.
It's another black flag.
Yeah, we'll try and pick up on who that is for. I think possibly the camera is pointing that direction, and it's 56 again, and 19, so 56 is the James Scott Mini, and 19 is the Peter Mansfield Rob Boston car, another potential issue for that one.
Yes, they've already dropped down to 35th. They're well out of it now, not with another penalty too.
Not sure what that would be for though.
Do they have to, when they do the penalty, have to do 45-degree angles, or they didn't do it again?
Well, no, because they're in a separate pit penalty box, aren't they, for that? But anyway.
Handley's run wide, being passed by Boston's just hanging on to the leader Class B, but it's super close. Heading down to the Jim Clark S's. The Golf is just ahead of the Civic and is staying ahead. But that was pretty tight for Handley, hanging on to the class lead that time.
Yeah, very close between those two. And of course they both need to make the stop, both of these two drivers, and then we'll see how they filter back into the race in the context of Phil Driver's position in the Porsche. 40 minutes of the race left to go. Cars heading into the complex once again. Class B leaders running at the moment in 3rd and 4th overall, but the only 2 cars ahead of them on the road are the 2 Class A cars that have yet to make their stop. They've got another 25 minutes to make that stop, because they have to do it before the 15-minute mark at the end of the race.
Michael Dark, replacing Sammy Venable, is 20 seconds behind Brad Kaler, who replaced William Caswell. And they were battling fairly close earlier on.
They were indeed, so let's see how that how things pan out in that one over the remaining part of the race. So they are showing 8th and 9th on the timing screen.
Up front, Steve Cheatham is now 52 seconds behind Cole Swift, so that's just been going steadily out.
Yeah, it's been going out just over a second a lap, I suppose, hasn't it, for the majority of the race, really. It's a relentless progression by that, say, the lot of the winning last season as well, of course, didn't it?
Yes, I think in all the races it's competed in, it's only lost one, which was to Alan Henderson at Oulton Park last year.
So here is the Class B Battle Salon track.
They've got the Grice Gulf, which of course now is the owner of the car, William Beach, in it. So potential championship contender really in Class B.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise to see that car further down the order, really.
But it did pit, didn't it?
Yeah,
early.
that's true.
And they're not that far behind Phil Driver. I think it's about half a minute. So a decent Class B result is still very much possible.
But they're just putting effectively another lap on that car as they go through the hairpin that time.
I wondered how easy it would be to get past, but they have done it fairly quickly.
Relatively easily, yeah.
There's a slow gulf for the pit lane. This is the
Stuart Mead, John Maudsley car. So is it Mead or Maudsley? And I hadn't noted that one as having come in.
Well, it's down in 22nd, which would be a pit stop kind of
okay,
position.
So it might be John Maudsley in that car at the moment. Stops just down below as the Jabber team here to try and deal with that situation. There is the Class B lead on screen again. 51 Luke Candy for Chris Freeman. Luke Candy, the driver from Fleet in Hampshire. Chris Freeman from Loughborough. And there's actually just a little bit more daylight between them now. They've had this situation where they've been passing and been passed by cars over the last couple of laps.
Andy Schultz now, remember he had that penalty, isn't that far behind Darren Ball. Probably about half a minute or something, but going a lot faster. So I think a top 10 result at least is still on there. They're 14th at the moment, but there's a number of cars to pit in front of them. So Schultz has got great pace.
Let's have another word with Tom Butterworth down in the pit lane.
Okay, I'm here with the driver of number 235, so Sammy Venable is the driver of the BMW M235, so a good number as well, obviously going with the car. So, Sammy, tell us how it was out there.
Yeah, I think we had a pretty good race, started P9. Wish I could have done better in qualifying, but after 6 minutes up to 5th, and when I got out of the car now up to 3rd, so really, really chuffed to bits for that.
Yeah, and really, I mean, really, you should be chuffed, shouldn't you? Because it's told it's your first ever car race.
Yeah, that's right, first ever car race. I'm a novice apparently, so got to run the sticker for probably 5 more races now.
And fingers crossed going to be on the podium today.
We'll see how it goes. Anything can happen in endurance racing. I know that from kart endurance stuff, so fingers crossed, and we'll just keep pushing as hard as we can.
Yeah, the car's going really, really well so far. I mean, how are you finding the step up from, because you've done karting quite a bit, haven't you, and then moving up into cars now? How are you finding the difference, the biggest difference between the step up from karting to cars?
I think the basic principle is the same thing really, but it's just...
Go as fast as you can.
Well, yeah, but it's understanding all the setup and stuff like that, the bigger circuits, the gears. But I've done a lot of iRacing as well, so that kind of helped over lockdown. So it was a really nice transition actually from karts to that and then this.
Okay, so the skills from iRacing are transferring almost directly onto the road or onto the track?
Well, some of it.
Some of it. Okay, so just, I mean, the paint scheme is really interesting as well. I really like the colour scheme that both of the cars have gone for, because you've got the sister car, which is the Polo as well. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate to have our sponsors, Crown Paints, who've been looking after us this year. So when we came up with them, we had a really cool idea to put the stickers on the car in the different colours, but the actual colours are named after the actual colours of the paints that Crown Paints provide. So that was a really good idea, and I think it just looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, I 100% agree. The Polo, as you can see, as you as we say. Hopefully we'll try and get some pictures of that, because unfortunately that has retired from the race. So we'll try and get some footage of that actual colour scheme as well and bring it to the viewers at home. But it's really, really good to see, and really exciting that there are these different colour schemes out there. It's not just necessarily sponsors' names on the car. It's a good livery to have.
Yeah, we're glad you all like it. That's the idea. It's very stealthy as well, so in the future you'll have to watch out for it, I think.
Yeah, well, it's been really enjoyable seeing you out there, and really good to talk to you as well. Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Back to you.
Tom Butterworth there doing his best to get a year's supply of crown paints to redecorate his living room. Yes, and we saw briefly on track the car that Sammy was driving, now being driven by Michael Dark on screen there. You may have spotted in the background in that interview that the Class C leader, Rowan Lundy, has come in to hand over to Richard Lundy for the second part of the race, and now Chris Freeman comes in as well. He was involved in that Class B lead battle, but from 4th position overall, 2nd place within Class B. Chris Freeman now comes into the pits, Josh.
Okay, so we'll see how long Luke Handley stays out there. There's Phil Dryborough, who has pitted, of course. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out in comparison. Here's Andy Schultz, one of the quickest drivers on the circuit at the moment, 13th overall, and passing cars rapidly in the M3. I guess Andy hasn't done that much racing at Croft. In the type of categories he's raced recently don't really come up here, so he's being quick. Was quick yesterday in road sports, led that race by a good margin and been one of the quickest drivers in this race, and he's catching Phil Dryborough for 12th overall. He's only 7 seconds up the road. There's problems though therein.
Yeah, that's the Chris Webster Flying Tangerine, the Mazda MX-5. It's struggling even to get down the pit lane, isn't it, that one?
And he was 9th position on the road.
Yeah, so hadn't made it stop, so it's due a mandatory stop, but yeah, there's some problems there, clearly. And the danger is that anyone coming down the pit lane now will have to navigate their way past that car. I think the team just arriving to give it a shove. I wonder if it was almost short of fuel or something.
Does make you wonder, doesn't it?
The 14 car going back out into the race, that's David McDonald. That car's already been in a couple of times, I think, hasn't it? So where's that one running? Well down the order, I should think.
Yes.
17th, actually.
Okay.
According to the timer screen.
Yeah, so not as far down as perhaps you might have expected.
I was expecting it to be a bit lower, but there we go. Just over half an hour of the race left to go.
Is Steve Cheetham pitted? We mentioned that.
Well, I hadn't noticed him come in, but the fact that he is now shown as 4th on the screen suggests that he might be, but we may have missed Steve Cheetham come in.
Here he is, right behind us, so I think this is his first lap out the pits.
Yeah, so let's have a look at what the lap time is when he triggers. If it's sort of 4 minutes something, then that probably would tally with the pit stop. But yeah, if he has been in, we've missed that.
Might have been while we had the interview downstairs, I suspect.
So he goes across the line now.
Car 12's now got a black flag. So that's the Tom Rogers car that he handed over to John Griffiths.
Steve Cheetham's lap was a 5:24. So that's probably about right, actually, isn't it?
There's Michael Dark now in the Crown Paints backed BMW, who's now 34 seconds behind Brad Kaler. And Brad Kaler, where is he to Steve Cheetham? He's only 18 seconds behind, so that'll be an interesting gap to watch. There's a car with a bit of damage that's coming down the pit lane there. That's the Rory Baptiste BMW, out of 10th position overall. I noticed Andy Bailey's pitted recently, and he's come out in front of Will Beach, which should give him 4th in Class B, really. And yeah, so that should be about 4th in Class B once everything settles down. Actually, I think it might be 4th in Class B as it is too. So most of the Class B cars have pitted, apart from Luke Handley, of course,
who's still out there, and the race leader, Carl Swift, still out there as well, with just about half an hour of the race left to go. So he's only got another 15 minutes-ish to make his stop. Hand over to Rob Baker for the second part of the race.
Rowan Lundy must have pitted, Class C leading.
Yes, we mentioned that he'd been in.
You see, but yeah, it's come back out. He was only 80 seconds ahead of Chris Webster, but of course that car's broken, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, what's happened? Well, the Sleeker's behind Jeremy Crook now. So perhaps he hasn't come out the pit lane yet, or So I think Jeremy Crook and Alex Lively, I think won at Donington in Class C. They did, are the leading pit stoppers in Class C now because the Celica hasn't come back round. Has it exited the pit lane? Can you see that from here?
I think it probably has. So I think it's probably on its way back round to the finish line, to the timing line.
It's dropped a long way behind then because Jeremy Crook, yes, because he's about 7 minutes overdue. Now, so Crook's come through now, James Keller's come through, who's 40 seconds behind.
So maybe it hasn't actually made it out of the pits then, so that's possibly one for Tom to go and investigate, the 827 Toyota Celica, see if there's a story there. But oh, in fact, it's just coming through now, it's just behind us, but it must have been a long stop, that one.
Note we've got 2 black flags out now, haven't we?
Maybe one wasn't getting through to some of the drivers. I know there's the 56 car, I think, has probably seen that black flag, or not seen that black flag for quite a few laps.
So the Lundy Civic, Celica, is a third of the Class C pit stoppers. It's Jeremy Crook that leads, 42 seconds ahead of James Kell. And then it's Richard Lundy now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's quite some way behind.
And that pit stop was probably 2 minutes longer than it ought to have been, looking at the lap times.
Absolutely. So
either that or we had a big moment somewhere and had to get the car fired up again. So that's really cost them, I think, within that class. It's a quick car and undoubtedly got the lap record, or fastest lap, I should say. Last time out at Donington, it's led a good portion of the race here, but now they've got an uphill struggle.
Andy Schultz across the line. And Christopher Freeman's made his stop and is in front of Schultz, who's in front of driver. So Christopher Freeman is the Class B leading stopper. And a long way ahead of Phil Driver, actually, now, isn't he? So the driver is off pace, I think, since the pit stop as well.
56 cars into the pit lane, but it's gone past the penalty box. So anyway,
20 seconds driver is behind Freeman, so that's quite a lot of time lost, isn't it, since they were battling earlier?
It certainly is. So who have we got left to stop? Do we think it's really just Swift and Handley pretty much?
Yeah.
Now, of anyone of note that needs to make the stop?
That's right, yeah. I guess they're waiting for a safety car, which we
and here is the one car coming in now, just as we say that. Carl Swift into the pit lane from the lead, to hand over to Rob Baker for the second part of the race. So Carl Swift with 27 minutes of the race left to go. We'll hand over to Rob Baker, and it's often the case that it goes that way. What a big tank slapper for the 118 car of Graham Kelly as he came out of the hairpin that time. There is the one car into the pits. So door is opened. Carl Swift climbs out of the left-hand side, holds his hands up away from the car, which he has to be before the fuel can start to go in. That's an important part of the regulations. The driver must be out of the car before the fueling takes place. You see the driver has made an effort to get it in at 45 degrees there into the pit garages. So they should have no problems with any non-compliance there. We've got just being clicked up at Clairvaux meanwhile. I think someone's gone through the gravel and come back out the other side though, Josh.
Andy Schultz is up to 7th with another fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 30.22, which is half a second quicker than what Cole Swift has done. Although, of course, Cole Swift did do that better lap in the first part of the race, didn't he? Which I guess should stand. But he's only 3 seconds behind Darren Ball now for 6th, and is 6 seconds quicker. So he should go past him on this lap, really.
So I suspect with Luke Handley then, who will effectively take the lead of the race, won't he? I suspect, because he's another area motorsport car, they'll get the Swift or the Baker car out and then they'll get Handley in, you would think, straight afterwards.
Quite possibly, yeah.
So they're not dealing with 2 stops at once. Then the 167 car is in, so that is the Neil Chisnell Mazda MX-5. Mark 3.
Darren Ball is still ahead of Andy Schultz on this lap, but the gap is less than 3 seconds now as they come through the complex into the hairpin. The battle for 6th and 7th overall. Probably when Handley pits, that'll become the battle for 5th. So this has been a good recovery from Schultz. The Celica's out over the grass in front of them. but Darren Ball is coming under increasing pressure from the quickest car on the circuit. Andy Schultz, they blast across the line and head down toward Clairvaux. And the Gulf, it's finally coming into the pits here, and that finally responding to that black flag.
Yeah. The Celica, by the way, looked a little bit slow, didn't it? I mean, I know it's not as quick as the cars that were going past it anyway, but it looked a little bit slower than you might expect it to be, the 827 car.
1 minute 50 that lap.
Yeah, and it was sort of a full lap behind then the treble 7 car, because that was just ahead on the road, wasn't it? The Cook and Lipsty car. Jeremy Crookett's now in that car.
Down to Tower, Andy Schultz, down the inside of Darren Ball, and he goes through then, so that's another place gain. That's up to 6th. What could they have done without the penalty? You wonder. Here they come into shot then, so the M3 is now ahead of the 1 Series. Andy Schultz has gained another place.
And as I thought, the 51 area motorsport car of Luke Handley is now, and I presume the Rob Baker car has been released, but anyway, Luke Handley about to go in.
Perhaps not yet, but
No, I was going to say.
they've probably done the work, I guess.
Yeah, and can accommodate Luke Handley's car to make his stop. No driver change involved there, because Luke going solo for the 110-minute race.
I don't know if Andy Schultz will gain any more positions. He should get ahead of Luke Handley, but now he's in the pits. But that'd probably be all.
Yeah, I would think so. With only 23 minutes left to go.
He goes across the line. How far is he behind Michael Dark? That would be 44 seconds. He was 3 seconds quicker on the last lap.
Still 20 minutes or so left to go in this race. There is the Neil Primrose car with Andy Schultz behind it on the road. Primrose is in 32nd position though, having had that, what was reported to be by Primrose, a terminal problem at one point. But he got back out there again due to the hard work of his team. And these two cars, you know, shouldn't be a million miles away from each other in terms of lap times. In fact, what is Primrose's best lap time? It is a 1:31.58, so only about a second or so off Schultz.
I think Rob Baker's got back out on track now. He has. So Baker, I believe anyway, Baker back out on track into the lead. Kept in the lead, so they're going to lead every lap of this race, aren't they? Or as long as it goes all right in the final stages. Quite
the achievement to do that, to make sure you've built up the lead in the first part of the race, to stay ahead all the way through the pit stops, and of course stop late enough to be able to make that work as well.
Chris Freeman, by the way, now is 22 seconds ahead of Phil Dryborough, but it's for him, it's all about if he can get ahead of Luke Handley. Here's Schultz out the hairpin, flying still, just lapped Neil Primrose's Janetta. And he goes across the line. The car in front, Michael Dark, 1:36.3, and Schultz across the line, 1:32.0. So that's 4 seconds on that lap. The gap is 40 seconds, so that needs 10 laps. We've got more than 10 laps to go, Ian, so
we do.
There could be another place gained here for Andy Schultz, which will in the end be for 4th, I think.
Yeah, so that would be quite come back after the penalty in particular.
Notice Rory Baptiste after his stop. He's 3rd in Class C. So it's Crook in the Civic, Kell in the MX-5, then Baptiste in his 330i. Chris Webster must be back going, because he's now got ahead of the Lundy Celica. That was a car that we thought had stopped, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Well, there is the Baptiste 330 that I just mentioned, 3rd in Class C.
Yeah.
We're going off.
Very, very wide indeed, almost onto the old circuit there, when the circuit didn't turn sort of back on itself at Sunny, but went off down to Clairvaux with the railway straight. The old triangular circuit here at Croft.
We should have Chris Freeman soon shortly, so I don't know if you can see what's going on with Luke Handley's Gulf. Chris Freeman's into the complex now. I think this would be for position.
Yeah, Luke Handley's Golf's just being pushed back out into the pit lane.
This is close then.
And he's heading down the pit lane now.
Out the hairpin comes Freeman. We can see both these cars on your screen now.
Yeah, Handley's going to make it, I think, isn't he? of course, the momentum is with Freeman.
Very close.
It is going to be close, but I think it's going to be Hanley that's going to do it. Probably helped by the fact that there are a couple of other cars between himself and Freeman.
But the battle is still there, isn't it,
Definitely.
for the last 20 minutes of the race?
You've got the 1-2-6 car of... who do I want to say now?
Brad Kahler.
Brad Kahler, isn't it, for the second half of the race?
Who's third overall, to mention. Only 18 seconds behind Steve Cheetham.
Yeah, so that's the car that's between Handley and Freeman now. So their battle, which has gone on for a lot of this race, is continuing.
They turn right then, through Tower. So I think this would be for 6th and 7th overall as well. Into the Jim Clark S's, so these two front-wheel drive cars. Someone who was doing well in Class B's in the pits, Andy Bailey. He was 4th, I think, in Class B, so he's got a problem. But for the Class B lead in the traffic, can Freeman make this work? Oh, Brad Kahler's almost got into Luke Handley there. So that didn't really go anybody's way in the end, but that could have been worse. But Freeman's keen to follow Kahler past Handley here, which could be interesting. Into the complex they come then. And Kahler stays behind in the Seat then. So it's Handley ahead of Freeman in Class B. Into the hairpin they turn. Oh, and Handley's running wide, I think, here. Is that going to affect his exit? No, actually it's Kahler that runs wider, which I guess is a bit frustrating now for Chris Freeman.
Yeah, but on the straight, the Seat is just able to just pull away because Freeman was alongside, but because the Seat's a Class A car, more powerful, or more better power to weight ratio, able to just streak back ahead into the corner, which just delays Freeman a bit possibly, rather than allowing him to get on terms with Luke Handley. Really what he would want here is for Kahler to get past Handley and leave them to it.
Well, I think he'd quite like to follow him past Handley.
If he can, yeah.
Let's say it should pass down to Tower this time, so Luke Handley stays to the left-hand side of the racetrack. Kahler's on the inside. He doesn't want him to hold him up on the exit of the corner, though, which I think might have happened. It has a bit, because he's almost drawing level to the Seat again, which should be in front now. But I think Luke Handley's judged it, so he still is leading Class B. Yeah,
the Golf seemed to carry a bit more speed through the corner, didn't it? But away from the corner, accelerating away, the Seat Learn clearly much quicker. And now with some daylight between itself and the Golf. So now it's just about, a second or so for Freeman to try and make up on Handley, and they'll continue their battle for the last 17 minutes or so.
Yeah, so it's worked for them too. Phil Driver's some half a minute behind now.
Yeah.
In third. 4th is Will Beach. 5th might be Michael Downey now, because the Andy Bailey extra pit stop that's happened recently.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I think everybody has now made their stops, because we are coming up to the final quarter hour of this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race at Croft. There are some drivers in the pit lane. You can see the Chisnells back in their MX-5 again. They've had a troubled afternoon.
And Andy Schultz is now 26 seconds behind Michael Dark for 4th overall. Oh, and high running Class C car into the pits, unscheduled. Rory Baptiste, we saw him go off. He was 3rd in class, I think, and only 20 seconds ahead of Chris Webster's MX-5. So I think Chris Webster's going to get himself up to 4th. 3rd in Class C.
Let's go down to Tom once again in the pit lane.
Hi guys, just a couple of updates. So the 19 Lotus Elise S2, they came in, parked the car for 7 minutes to replace a battery, I think it was a battery connection or battery terminal point that had sheared off the car, and so they parked the car for 7 minutes, but there was a bit of confusion about possibly how they should be parking, and so because it wasn't parked at a 45-degree angle, they've actually been pinged for a black flag and have now actually parked the car, which is a real shame for those guys. So that's Peter Mansfield and Rob Boston in the 19 Lotus Elise, and then the 56 Mini Cooper S R56 received a black flag, then proceeded to ignore the black flag for around about 6 laps and just kept driving past. So they were pinged with a 5-minute penalty, and on top of that, the driver who was ignoring the black flags or didn't see them or whatever happened in that car, that driver has now actually been disqualified from the race and can no longer take part. So they've had their 5-minute penalty. They've then done another 3-minute pit stop so that they can do a driver change. So lost a huge amount of time there, but they are now, that Mini Cooper is now back out and running. So just a quick update on those two. Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom, for that news from the pit lane. Pit window is closed. That's what that board says. If you can only read the other side of it, that's hanging out of the pit wall at the minute. So no more scheduled pit stops expected for the final part of this race. Oh, and an incident, that is the Josh Leake car, the Honda Civic. We've already seen that car once today in the hands of Luca Diella. This time Josh Leake has gone off and has left some of the car behind. That's on the turn into Sunny.
Yes. Yeah, the rear end of the car sort of hanging off, isn't it? What is left there, like you said, some of it was left on the side of the track, and some of the rest of it's hanging back. So that would have been a pretty fast spin, I should think.
There's Luke Handley, Class B leader, and still Chris Freeman behind.
He pulled away though, 8 seconds on the last lap. So
does that? Has he got a problem possibly? And might that bring Phil Driver back into the equation for second in class?
He's 25 seconds behind his driver to Freeman. So I don't think there's some people managing cars at the moment. Here comes the Civic into the pits that had the accident.
Yeah.
From 15th.
Yeah, so that's Josh Leake into the pits. It's been an eventful race for that team. There across the line, about to come the Class B leader, number 4 car. And number 51 car in 6th place overall.
Andy Schultz is now only 15 seconds behind Michael Dark, so I think he's going to get 4th out of this, isn't he? He was 6 seconds quicker on the last lap. Just going through shot with a 3rd place car of Brad Kahler, who's a long way ahead now of Michael Dark's BMW that's just turning into the hairpin to complete the lap.
Another slow lap from Chris Freeman there, a 1:42.9, so he's now 15 seconds behind Handley, but only 20 seconds ahead of Phil Driver in the battle for Class B.
5 seconds slower. There's the Class B leader on the screen to Luke Handley, who turns his way into Sunny. Andy Schultz completes another lap. 59 laps completed for him. 1:37.3 for Michael Dark. And across the line, Andy Schultz 1:30.7, so the gap's only 8 seconds now, and he was 7 or so seconds quicker on the last lap. Out of the chicane comes Michael Dark, and Andy Schultz will be able to see him shortly. He's catching at an unbelievable rate. I don't think there'll be any more positions after this one, but it's been a great drive from Andy Schultz. It's just that penalty that's cost them. Yeah,
it does seem that way. Real shame for them, as we are watching the cars on the run from Sunny to the complex. There's the Michael Downey Porsche Boxster. Well, that's the Mini that's back into the race, the one that has been described, and that is the 777, which is the Class C leading car at the moment, with Jeremy Crook aboard.
By 27 seconds, the gap has been coming down to James Kell, but not, I don't think, quick enough for there to be a change. 3rd in Class C is Chris Webster's MX-5.
Yeah, about 3 seconds a lap difference. Chris Freeman's into the pit, so Chris Freeman, who was in strife clearly, weaving the car around a little bit as he comes in, almost like he's trying to find some fuel, but they'll have had a fuel change or free fuel.
I wonder if there's been some sort of problem there, because it's ever since it exited the pit lane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, anyway, Chris Freeman...
Oh, there was a miscalculation when they were refueling it.
Yeah, possibly so.
Andy Schultz has already done it. He's already in front of Michael Dark for 4th place. He was 8.5 seconds back at the beginning of the lap, and now he's 3 seconds in front of him. He's a minute though behind 3rd, so that I think is as far as he will get, but it's been a great drive from Schultz in that M3.
Certainly is. He's just making his way through the chicane now, and clearly very determined performance in this second half of the race from Schultz. Only about 10 minutes or so to go in this race at a very warm Croft circuit this evening. There is that Class C leading 777 car of Jeremy Crook, who took over from Alec Livesley, who had the car for the first part of the race. And that's a Civic that's running to Class C specs. We've had I think Civics in all 3 classes, haven't we, in this race?
Yes.
Although not all of them have made it to the end, but all running to a slightly different specification, different power to weight calculations. So 10 minutes to go. It's looking like it's going to be Rob Baker that's going to bring the Area Motorsports out home for another victory.
It's the Crook and Lively car, an Area car too.
I don't know if it's run by Area or not, actually. Could be.
If it is, we've got Area cars leading all 3 classes.
Yeah. And the team that do run a number of cars in the championship, and obviously do so in a very professional way as well.
Andy Schultz has done a 29 now, 1 minute 29.89 after 61 laps, which is now very close to the lap time Cole Swift did in the first part of the race.
Okay.
And he's quicker than he did in qualifying, Andy Schultz, by over a second, so it makes you wonder he didn't get a proper lap in really this morning, or earlier this afternoon.
Baker just getting across the line in the lead of the race, completing lap number 63. Only about 9 minutes left to go for him in this race. So a 1:31 he did that time through. Still lapping at a reasonably competitive pace all this far into the race. The Celica is still out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if Richard Lundy isn't quite as quick, because it's been about 10 seconds off the pace ever since he's been in it.
So it's gone down the order. It's 4th now in Class C, isn't it? Behind the Webster MX-5, which itself we think had was that an unscheduled or a troubled pit stop that one had.
Yes, but it's worked out not too badly, I guess, in 3rd place.
Yeah.
There's a slow Golf heading down towards Tower. I don't know if we'll be able to pick that up. The James Alford car is heading out of Tower at reduced pace. It's still going though, kind of okay. Oh no, it's going to pull in, take the shortcut, I think, back to the pit lane. You can see that on your screens now.
Yeah, or yeah, I think possibly just park up there behind the barriers, safely out of the way. Might as well leave it there because there's only 8 minutes of the race left to go. He's got it parked up out of the way behind the barriers because it's in between the hairpin and the Jim Clark S is more or less just there. There it is. You can see on screen the treble 5 car of Alford. There's the Kayla Seat just going across the line with 7.5 minutes or so of the race left to go. So that's running in 3rd position at the moment. So it's going to be Seat 1st and 3rd by the looks of things here, with Schultz sort of just under a minute behind that car now, isn't he, I think?
Indeed. He's already pulled out 26 seconds to Michael Dark, who's some way off of Sammy Venable's pace. He's 24 seconds ahead of Luke Handley for 5th overall, and being caught pretty fast.
Yeah, Luke Handley, the survivor really of that three-way Class B battle, because we've lost Chris Freeman to the pit lane. Phil Dryborough is a little bit further back. He lost that time in the pits, and indeed he's just getting past our commentary box now.
Yellow flag?
Yellow flags, yeah, at on the way into Clairvaux, and I'm trying to see why.
Chris Freeman's car's parked at the end of the pit
It
lane.
is, isn't it? I wonder if that's the reason for it. It doesn't appear to be an exposed position. Trying to look at what we've got on screen now. No, that doesn't really help us. It's just on the exit of the pit lane. I think that's what it's for, though. Part right of the pit lane entrance. It's almost like it's trying to go back out into the race and then conked out, which is possibly exactly what happened. There you can see that car, yeah, just beyond the pit lane exit, and the marshal now trying to push it back in to a position of safety.
Darren Ball's pace is dropped off now, and he might be caught by Phil Dryborough for the end. Not for class position, but for 7th overall.
Yeah, that's certainly possible, isn't it? We're not going to get a change in Class C, I don't think, because it's about 28 seconds between Jeremy Crook in the lead of that class and James Curl in second, so it's the Honda leading the Mazda. See, Webster in the MX-5, 22nd overall, third within that class. Then the Richard Lundy Salika is fourth in that class. Graham Kelly in the BMW, fifth in that class. So quite a lot of variety in Class C as well.
Kelly 14 seconds behind Lundy and going 5 seconds a lap faster, so that could be a change right in the dying stages of the race.
Yeah, we can see the Kelly BMW just coming past our commentary box now, as you are watching Steve Cheetham go through, shot in second position, and he is only just a little bit ahead on track of the race leader, Rob Baker. So it looks like Rob Baker is going to lap the field here, Josh.
It's quite possible, yeah, he's caught him pretty well, but this I think is Steve Cheetham's best result in this car, if he can stay there of course. In 2020, yeah, I don't think he got any podiums, he didn't. So yeah, this is the best the car's gone. He finished fourth in the Class A Championship last year. And where did he finish at Donington? He got a 10th, I think, something like that. So this is a big improvement, you'd have to say.
Definitely.
He's 18 seconds ahead of Brad Kaler. That stayed pretty static ever since they've made their stops.
Absolutely right, and I can see Cheetham just heading his way through Tower Corner now, watching the Paul Browse car, number 22. Phil Driver getting past him. Phil Driver in 8th position overall. You've got Graham Kelly involved in that as well. And just behind Graham Kelly on track is the Class C car that's leading Class C.
I'm not sure what's happened though to them, because the gap between them and the Kel just suddenly come down to 22 seconds, where it's been stayed at half a minute for ages.
Yeah, so is there a problem therefore for the car that you can see on screen now, just behind the Paul Browse car actually? I think that is the Treble 7 car. Yes, it is.
There's obviously been an incident here lately, the hairpin, there's debris on the road.
Yeah, there is. There's a slippery surface flag to warn the drivers of that. There you can see it on your screen. A bit of trim that's dropped off one of the cars, maybe.
That was a better lap for Jeremy Crook, so I think all is okay.
And they're just going through your shot now. The two leaders, a lap apart. The Seat overtaking or trying to overtake the Porsche of Steve Cheetham to put a lap on him. Does he succeed by the time they get down? No, he doesn't succeed by the time they get down to Clairvaux. So Steve Cheetham just hanging on for another couple of corners before Rob Baker in the set gets through, which he does now at Hawthorne. They've got the Flying Tangerine ahead of them on the circuit, and I think also the Class C BMW of Rory Baptiste. So a full lap ahead of everyone else now. Rob Baker, here he is on screen.
For 7th overall, Phil Driver has passed Darren Ball on the last lap. To go ahead at Darren Ball, I think it's some kind of issue because his times have been way out for the last few laps.
And Driver's 3/4 of a minute behind Luke Handley in the lead of Class B. So each of the classes, as we head into the final couple of minutes, looking like it's reasonably well settled, I would suggest. With Carl Swift looking good for the overall win, Luke Handley looking good for Class B, and the Treble 7 car of Jeremy Crook, the Honda Civic, looking good for the Class C win here. There's the race leading car, which has been the dominant car really in the past season and a half in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. I wonder who it is that's going to finally be able to beat them. We thought Alan Henderson might be able to do that here, but he's had problems with his car. They've gone to the last lap now, the race leaders. Last lap board is out for Rob Baker. So Carl Swift started the car and did 3/4 of the race probably in it before Rob Baker took over. And he, since he's been out, has lapped, so he's put quite a bit of time on Steve Cheetham in second place overall in the Class 8 Boxster.
Cheetham's now only 15 seconds ahead of Red Kaler, but obviously that doesn't matter now, but that gap comes down slightly. But yeah, out of the field that have gone through the race without too many issues, Baker and Swift have been clearly quicker than anybody else. If Andy Schultz didn't have that penalty, I think they would have been second at least, and that might have given a bit more interest to what was going on there. But of course, ifs and buts don't mean anything, do they?
No, they don't. So Rob Baker heading through Sunny for the final time.
Yeah, it's about a lap and a half Schultz is behind. And 2-minute penalty.
About a lap and a half. It's not too far off, is it? It's certainly been on the same lap.
But there we go.
There we go. Such is motor racing. Anyway, through into the complex for the final time comes Rob Baker, who's about to pass the Paul Browse BMW. But it's going to be another win for Area Motorsport in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Up to the line he comes then, and the checkered flag is made ready. Rob Baker takes it, and the Seat wins the race, and the Class C car, Class C winner, goes across the line as well. That's the Treble 7 car, Jeremy Crook and Alec Livesley, who drove that in the first part of the race, so they get their second win of the season as well. So two teams with 100% winning records so far in 2021.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, down with your overall race winner, Rob Baker. Rob, tell us about how that one went for you.
Carl did a great stint at the start, and we basically, Cheatham was still in the pit window if he got a safety car stop, so we just had to go as long as until he pitted, and as soon as he did, we knew we could stop and maintain a lead. So yeah, really good job by the team. Car was great. Move on to Brands.
So just the classic overcut then.
Yeah, I mean, we had a gap anyway, but regardless, you can gain a minute. You can gain a minute, 2 minutes under a safety car pit stop compared to a normal one. So he was 50 seconds behind or so. So we just wanted to wait for him to stop and until we did, basically.
Yeah, sorry, I meant I knew you were well clear. It was just the overcut of making sure that you went longer than he did, make, complete strategy calls on your part, just maintain that gap.
Yeah, team did a great job as always. We always play the strategy game. We're here to win at the end of the day, so we'll always play it the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spoke to Carl during the red flag period, and he seemed pretty comfortable as well, and just rocketed away at the start. So nice, clean race from you both, and congratulations. Let me bestow this upon you. Great. So there you go. That's your overall race winner, Class A, Rob Baker, in the Seat Leon.